So it's not for kids.
What's a topical... Oh, I know. Hold on one second. I gotta just hit save here on my game of Silk Song that I'm playing. Yes, I'm definitely playing Silk Song and didn't fail to finish Hollow Knight. Tom, I give you my Metroid games when I'm done with them, and then you like hold on to them for like 2 years.
I don't even know if I've gotten past the title screen of Metroid Dread, if that's where you're going with this.
At least you booted it, right?
Maybe. The problem is it's a 3DS game, right?
No, that was the one before it.
Oh, God. Samus something. Samus's 3DS game.
Paula, sometimes we start and we really don't get going. So just as a heads up.
Yeah, do you ever play Metroid?
I played a little bit of Metroid when I was a kid, but just a bit of one game. But it has taken me 2 years now to not finish Baldur's Gate 3, if that makes anyone feel better.
Hell yeah.
That's pretty solid. It's taken me 2 years to get the motivation to consider playing Baldur's Gate 3.
It's a lot. It's not a small commitment. And right now I am drowning in side quests, and it's enough to make me go, maybe I don't finish this.
I think the huge world games like Skyrim or Baldur's Gate, it's never the appeal for me that throws me away because I'm always like really interested in them. It's more that the expanse of available options and the knowledge that I'm going to be sinking my life in them is almost like a deterrent.
Totally. You're like, this is too much. Like, can I commit my free time to this?
The game is like selling itself as if part of your personality is going to become this game. Are you ready? The answer is almost always no for me. Same thing with like Elden Ring and even the Dark Souls games. Like I'm just...
If you're into Dark Souls, if you're into like Soulsborne type games, that is your personality, I feel like. Like people who are like into that, like that is their personality. And I've played Bloodborne, and it is all you can do or think about while you're doing it, because otherwise you will not live. You will just die and hate yourself.
So Paula, do you come out of Bloodborne like, what year is it? Or is it like a perpetual thing? Like you're Bloodborning for life?
I played it, and I played it through once, and I died 700 times. And
nice.
I then was like, cool, that was that.
Never looked back.
And I did it.
Yeah.
Hey,
check.
Accomplishment. I like the mental image, though, that like you put the controller down, then like go out in the street and you're like lumbering around like the main character. Someone says something to you and you like spin and slash them. Like
you're a Daniel Day-Lewising it.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go. Method acting.
Yeah, exactly.
The Soulsborne games. That's how to play it.
So Paula, who are you? Who do you think you are?
Oh boy, what a question. Oh gosh. I was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Was he still in grad school? Was he out of grad school? Who knows? Then we moved to Ohio, and then we moved to North Carolina. And then I was 3 years old. So I don't remember those first two places I just mentioned.
You're just recalling parts that you're not even familiar with.
I don't remember those places. This is a fascinating autobiography I've given you. Really
was
poignant.
board games always part of the equation, or did that come later?
Well, board games always was in the way that I feel like they are for most people. We had Scrabble and Trivial Pursuit and Clue. We actually had my mom's version, like her copy of Clue from when she was a kid. Okay. And Clue was my favorite game growing up because I wanted to act it out, which tells you a lot about me and my personality. I'm like, let's just act that out instead of playing the game. Yeah, and so I didn't really get into more of what I think we would probably consider like hobby board gaming until my mid to late 20s when I met my now husband, who was like, oh, I have Axis and Allies. And I was like, no. And he was like, how about Settlers of Catan? And I was like, okay. And then he was like, what about Betrayal at House on the Hill? And I was like, I'm in. More of this. Let's go. And then the rest is history.
Axis and Allies is a strong start. Kenny, I feel like you might have skipped ahead a little bit here. Who are we?
Yeah, who are you?
We're good.
We introduce the guest and we don't even say what the show is.
Well, we kind of we've always done it. Are you gaslighting me here? Yeah, we've always introed the guest, and then we talk a little bit, and then you say, "Hey, we've been running on for a while. Should we intro the show?" And then I intro the show.
Okay, I guess I'm speed running to that bit. Yeah.
I mean, they know who we are, right? It'd be kind of wild. Actually, that's not wild.
Yeah, imagine this is the first ever episode. Yeah.
but counter argument. Okay. If they're coming for Paula, they don't give a shit about us anyway. You know,
not yet, but they will. If they're here for me, they've already heard me say all this stuff before. You know, they know the story. If they're here for me, they know I started out playing Clue and then got in with Betrayal House on the Hill.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Everyone's new. Basically, we should treat them all like they're big dumb babies.
Yes. I love it when a guest joins my side of the argument because that shows they really haven't listened to our show. Well, I mean, Kenny, why don't you just...
Yeah, I mean, I'll do it.
Launch into it. Go for it.
Since I'm being peer pressured by y'all, welcome to Shelf Stable, a podcast celebrating board games that have stood the test of time. I'm your host, Kenny Katayama.
And I'm your other host, Tom Bowers. Today, our featured topic is Women in Gaming, featuring Paula Deming, our special guest. But before we get into that, we're actually gonna do a little bit here, I think. Kenny, we have to know.
Yes, we have to know our infamous segment. Paula.
Yes. Oh, now I'm worried.
Favorite monster that you've hunted with Nick and Matthew?
Ooh, yes. So, in the infamous Death by Monsters podcast, a podcast all about monsters, mysteries, and the unknown, which I miss. It is defunct now, but I do miss it. I'll say the very first one we ever talked about on that show, which was Bigfoot. I think Bigfoot's a great one. Or Dogman. Now, hear me out. I think Dogman might be real. And I'm like half a believer, half skeptic of these kinds of things. I really bridge the gap between Matthew, full believer, and Nick, full skeptic. The account I heard of a man who saw Dogman, I just don't think he was acting. I think he saw something. So something's out there, y'all.
It was just like some teen in like a Scooby-Doo costume that hadn't that got mangled and wasn't like completely, off, and he was stuck in it, and that's the truth. But it was still real. It was like that really was a dog man in that moment.
Exactly. Thank you.
It was probably a police officer and the police officer's dog, and they were in a terrible accident, but they sewed the dog's head to the officer's body. That's for my 7-year-old audience out there. Yeah.
What?
That's for the Captain Underpants audience out there.
Oh,
that's horrifying. Wait, I thought you were quoting like a actual horror movie, but this is a children's plot point.
No, it's just a children's cartoon, yeah.
Oh,
so it's like the premise of like RoboCop, except it's like a dog. I didn't know that's like the dog.
Yeah. That's what Dogman is. Yeah.
That's so good. It's really funny.
The parents out there are like, yes, he's cooking. Okay. Paula, is it true that you eat strawberries whole, including the stem?
I do not eat strawberries whole, including the stem.
Okay.
Who eats the stem of the strawberry? When did I say that? Who,
okay.
Where?
Okay, we're going to skip that. It's a buck wild take.
Here's maybe some insight. So I do these videos sometimes on Watch It Played.
Yeah.
Called On the Radar. And they are written by Chaz Marler, but he writes them as though we are all individually like saying true things. And so he'll just write things. And now here I am on the internet talking about how I'm allergic to shellfish for a joke, for a bit that Chaz has written into these scripts so that it will be like a running bit, how we keep coming back to me being allergic to shellfish. And then the entire internet is convinced that I am allergic to shellfish, and they get really upset when they see me out at a convention eating shrimp. You know, like...
You got shrimp salad, the fork is like coming up to your mouth, and a fan's like, no! Like they
whacking it out of my
smack
hand.
it. Yeah.
If I could see in one of these videos, maybe I referenced eating a strawberry whole, including the stem, or something like that. So if there's anything gotten from any of those videos, they might not be true.
All right, I gotta be careful now. I feel like some of these are loaded because I may have interpreted some of these as true facts.
That's okay. I am here to set the record straight. You ask them all, and I'll let you know what's real and what's not.
That's good.
Yeah.
I can ask you things and we can fact check it, so that way we can get the internet correct on
It's
that.
the only
you.
show on the internet where people can actually tell us the truth. That's why we're launching our website, truth.com.
Oh, God, Tom. Did you ever figure out what baseball game was on the inside of the Acquire box?
No, and I was literally just talking about this because I just played Acquire with Nick again, and then our friend Shay Parker. Showed it to them for the first time, made new fans. I'm very excited. It's such a good game. And I was like, and also look what's inside my box, my grandpa's old baseball scorecard. And we still can't figure it out, but we were looking at it trying to think like, okay, what could I Google to like get at least within the ballpark? I just want to know what year it's from, and I have never figured it out. But it's so cool. I have this, for people who don't know, I have my grandparents' copy of Acquire from the 60s. And inside of it, for some reason, is this old baseball game scorecard from when my grandpa lived in St. Louis, because it's a Cardinals game. But I don't know what year, because nowhere on this card is a year listed.
Yeah, maybe we can crowdsource this one. There's got to be a website where you can like input the scores for a game and it'll tell you which game it was or something.
There's gotta be, right?
This seems like something Reddit is uniquely designed to solve. In fact, there's almost for sure like a subreddit that you could post this to and say, which ball game is this? And
that's such a good idea.
Thank you.
Okay. Paula, you're no stranger to the feline cameo in some of your work. Do you have any tips as far as like making sure that they don't hop onto whatever you're working on? And if not, is it just like embrace the chaos?
Oh boy. Yeah. I've gotten to a point now where, so I live stream board games on Twitch and YouTube, and sometimes that's with a physical board game on the table as opposed to something on like Board Game Arena. And I've now just gotten to the point where if I set up a game on the table for a stream, I just have to lock the cats out of the room. That's my advice. Just jail them.
Yeah, just avoid
basically.
it.
Yeah, because you won't be able to stop it from happening. They will jump all over it. One of my cats in particular loves board games. I think what he loves is sinking his little fangs into cardboard. I have a lot of things I'm like, oh, this has teeth marks in it. Cool. I had like an envelope from a campaign game where they're like, don't open this envelope yet. And then he got to it. And I was like, cool. We weren't supposed to open that yet, Shepard.
I guess the silver lining is like if you do ever bring the same game as someone else to a game night and they get mixed up, you can always find your copy because it's the one with all the little holes in it.
Exactly.
Last but not least, do you have a favorite character in Stardew Valley?
Oh, this is tricky. So I've just recently started playing. I'm in my first playthrough of Stardew Valley. I'm partway through my second spring. So like we've just experienced the first year. And so my feelings about all the characters is ever evolving. I'm currently romancing 2 people, looking at a third because, you know, why not? The game lets you, so why not, you know? I'm currently dating Harvey and Sebastian, and I'm leaning towards Sebastian, but I was like, I'm going to make Leah my best friend. But now I'm like, or the more I get to know Leah, I'm like, maybe Leah, y'all, maybe she's actually better than these dudes. So...
Yeah.
Every time people talk about Stardew Valley, I've not played very much Stardew Valley. My kids love that game. So I'm going to have to tell them to listen to this episode, I guess. But it just sounds like everyone's on like their own version of The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. Like, just, you know, anything could happen, guys. Who's going to get this rose this week?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You literally do give flowers to people to make them your boyfriend or girlfriend. So you have to buy a special bouquet of flowers from Pierre and then when you give it to them, they're like, wow, I didn't realize you felt the same. And then they're just your boyfriend or your girlfriend. So right now I do have 2 people listed as my boyfriend. Feels weird, but here we are. I honestly didn't think I would like Stardew Valley. It sounded boring. I thought it looked really boring. But then I started playing it and I'm obsessed. So I don't know myself very well, I guess.
I think it's one of those games that kind of just like resonates with people. Because I had a similar experience. I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this. And then I just went in the deep end for a little bit. And now I don't even remember anything about it. It's a very strange experience. It's like playing Bloodborne and then going outside for the first time. We like to ask the guests to bring a game that they've played. And in the spirit of being shelf stable, we try to shoot for something that's a little bit older. And Paula, you reached back to some of the things you've been playing recently, and you pulled Las Vegas. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, Las Vegas from 2012, but I just played it for the first time. This is designed by Rüdiger Dorn. It's published by Alea, and there's a new version of it we were talking about. I've not played the new version, Las Vegas Royale, which looks fancier. It's like a black box with a golden Las Vegas, like the Ferris wheel or whatever on the cover, I think, as opposed to this original one, which is like green with pictures of like, I swear she looks like Britney Spears on the cover. Pull that up. It's like Britney Spears rolling dice at the craps table. It's a great game. I love games where you are rolling dice, but the dice don't determine your like failure or success, because I have a dice curse and I will roll a failure most of the time. So I really like games that use dice, but not for that purpose. And in this game, you have like these different casinos, and each casino is assigned a die value. So you have 6 of them. So like 1 through 6, because you're rolling D6s. And you have a pool of dice, and you roll your dice, and you take dice of matching values, and you pick one to put on corresponding like casino, right? So if I roll 3 6s, I have to take all 3 6s to put on the 6th casino. I can't just put one on there. I have to put all of them. If that's what I'm choosing. And each casino is worth a certain amount of money. And at the end of the round, when everyone has spent all their dice, you get money based on like basically area control. Whoever has the most dice on a casino will get the payout. But if 2 people tie for the most, they're both out. So whoever gets second place then gets the money. And so that's where it like gets like tricksy. And yeah, it's just silly, fun, simple. I was like, this is a blast, and I am excited to play it more. I think I could play it with my parents, which is a big thing. Yeah. Have y'all played?
Yeah, we haven't played this version. We played the Royale version, which coincidentally in the US they call it the quarter pounder version. But both Tom and I really liked it. I think Tom, you described it.
I liked it quite a bit. It really does kind of feel like it sets out, or it accomplishes what it sets out to do, which is to bring Las Vegas to you wherever you are in a box. It's like the games are like mostly kind of random. It's like at best there's like a little bit of luck mitigation. I mean, I would imagine the expected values are actually a little bit better than they actually are in Vegas, but at the end of the day, it's like a lot of like fun, and no one's taking it that seriously, and there's like money moving around, you know?
And it's like, there are interesting decision points, right? Because you've rolled your dice and you're like, okay, I don't want to necessarily spend all of my dice right now. Like I could put all 3 6s at the 6th casino, which is worth $60,000 when it pays out. But then I have fewer dice on my next turn to roll, which is going to mean I'm out of the round sooner, giving the other players more time potentially to roll and respond to what's out there. So you might think you have the most on this one casino, but then someone else is like, well, I get to roll for 3 more turns than you, meaning, oh, now I'm able to kind of swoop in and kind of swipe that spot. Swoop and swipe is the technique, because I can react to what's going on for longer because I held back on some of my dice.
It's almost like there's an extra layer of gambling to like how much can I put on this where no one else is going to contest it, but I'm not, just kind of losing out on my options too early. There's a lot of
exactly.
Tough choices like that.
I really like games that kind of push that, have that like push and pull of like, I can do something really strong right now, or I can leave my options open, but at the cost of weakening things a little bit.
Yeah, kind of like a Fromage does that. If y'all have played Fromage, not an older game alert, a new one.
New game alert. Yeah, Fromage is great.
But yeah, it's exactly like that, right? I love that game.
Very fun, very tactile.
I still haven't played it. It's supposed to be very, very popular.
I could have sworn I saw you playing it.
No.
It was just a fever dream?
I guess.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite games from last year. Yeah, highly recommend.
I played Grand Austria Hotel recently, and that has a similar thing where you roll all the dice, and an action you take is stronger if you take it when there's a bunch of dice there. But you can also pass your turn and re-roll the dice. But you lose a die in the process. And I think that's a great way to do things.
Yeah.
My one gripe with Las Vegas is just that there's like 4 games that are like something Vegas at this point, and it gets really hard for me to figure out which one's which.
Well, there's like Las Vegas, Lords of Vegas, Welcome 2 is technically in Vegas, I think.
Yes. Welcome to Las Vegas.
Vegas Showdown. And it's like, we need something else, like Las Vegas, but the one where you roll the dice or something like that. Maybe that could be the subtitle or something.
Well, I don't know if this is like intellectual colonialism or something, but like Macau exists, like...
Where are you going with this?
It's like Las Vegas, right? Las Vegas is overplayed. So you could start making games about Macau. You could probably even get
I see what
a
you're
handshake
saying.
from like the tourism board in Macau, and then it'll be like boom, like free advertising for them. Go to Macau.
It depends on how it's handled, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you could also make it Reno.
Reno.
We just call it Reno. Everyone wants a board game about Reno.
Exactly.
I've always said that. Yeah.
Macau is a much better choice.
I would legit play a version of now I can't remember which one. Which one's the one where you invest in properties? Is that Vegas Showdown?
That's Monopoly.
Thank you.
Yes,
Tom.
that's Monopoly. Yes.
I think it's Vegas Showdown. I would play a version of Vegas Showdown that was like a Reno Showdown or something like that.
Well, again, like Monopoly.
Yeah.
We could re-theme it for every different local area.
Paula, have you played Monopoly Deal? We have to ask all guests this. It's okay if you haven't.
Not played Monopoly Deal. No.
Okay.
Is it good?
Tom, you got to talk about how it's your favorite game, and then I got to shoot you down because you're overhyping it.
It's a lot better than Monopoly. So
okay, but that's not saying a lot because Monopoly is legit. Look, I used to be a person who was like, let's all be nicer to Monopoly. We're gatekeeping. And then like 2 years ago, I played Monopoly again and I was like, oh, no, this is bad.
Yeah.
This is, no one should play this. No wonder people don't like board games. This is bad.
Yeah, I totally agree.
It's wild though, because you say that, and like, so just last night I was teaching a class full of people who are largely from rural-ish Missouri, and I always like to ask, what's your favorite board game? Because I never know what exactly to expect, and I'm just curious to see, who is of the in-group. And so
who's
I did
cool
have
and
some...
who's a loser.
Yeah, exactly. I did have some surprises. We had Splendor, we had Root mentioned, Raccoon Tycoon.
Wow.
So I was, pleasantly
Raccoon
surprised.
Tycoon.
Yeah, but out of like the 20 people, I think the most common answer I got was Monopoly.
It's just because it's the only one they know.
Followed by Sorry.
Oh my gosh. 2 games that are not... y'all,
Yeah.
People deserve better.
They do. There's a lot of work left to do, but I'm teaching this class, so I can't be like, oh, Monopoly, huh? And I don't want to be that way either. Like I want to be like, oh, Monopoly. I have many things I could show you that you could be interested in.
Yeah. Oh, you like that? Let me show you a better version of that. Yeah.
Which is Monopoly Deal. Okay.
I
I don't think Monopoly Deal is like gonna blow anyone's mind or like revolutionize the industry here. I do tend to overglaze it. I'll admit, I'll be the first. You know what? We're honest on this podcast. That's why we're launching our website, truth.com. As I mentioned.
/ we're honest.
/ we are honest. Yeah. And Monopoly Deal, I tend to overglaze. But I do actually think it's what I want in a filler game largely, which is like for people who've played it a lot, there's an edge to be gained. And yet everyone can have a good time. It's easy to teach, easy to get started. It ends quickly. Right, it just like does everything that a filler game should do, and it has that Monopoly aesthetic. Which I think the one thing about Monopoly that I like is the aesthetic. Like there's something about the properties having the colors and like the color matching into the sets, the railroad, the utility companies.
Oh, okay. I was like aesthetic, like, did Beth Sobel do the art or something recently? I was like very confused.
Like it's not
themed with flowers.
It doesn't have like these incredible art assets, but it has that. I think it's mostly just like nostalgia driven, right? Because like everyone grew up surrounded by Monopoly stores at their family homes, at the cabin retreats, etc. And so that familiarity, I think, helps bring people into it too. That's just another reason I like it.
Totally. Because the only reason people still play Monopoly is because that's what's always been played. That one, I think it's a crime that Monopoly got this instead of Acquire. Because, like, if you like
Agreed.
the idea of what Monopoly is doing, then you should play Acquire. You're literally investing in properties in Acquire. And it's such a good game. I think there is a barrier to learning new games when you aren't used to learning new games. And that is the learning process where you don't know the right way to play it first. And that can make you feel stupid. And people don't like to feel stupid. And I'm just having this realization right now that that's a huge barrier. And that's why people stick with things like Monopoly, even though they're playing it wrong, or Scrabble, or Sorry, or the Game of Life, because they know it.
Right. Yeah, there's like a risk aversion that's causing some unintended consequences.
Yeah.
Tom, going back to your question that you asked your students, though, I don't think their favorite game is Monopoly. I think that's like the board game equivalent of saying like I listen to all kinds of music, or like I listen to everything but rap and country or something like that. It's like it's like they don't play board games. That's kind of how I interpret it.
It's the only one they know to say. Yeah.
Yeah, then that could definitely be the case, but
that's why you got to drop down that food chain magnet on the table and be like,
don't
all
do
right,
that.
we're skipping the lessons.
Oh, you guys,
we're gonna
like
play this. It's just like Monopoly.
Yeah, and trading money away. Yeah.
Don't give them food chain magnet. They'll think all games are ugly.
And they'll also think all games are overly long and exceedingly frustrating to experience.
Like, see how much better this is than Monopoly?
Like, no.
I like the idea of like dropping food chain magnate, like, and you're hoping actually to scare people off board games for life. And then it completely backfires, actually. Like, they crush you at it, and then they're like, this game is awesome. And, like, they're like, you got any more games like this? And you're, like, weeping, like...
We heavily veered away from Las Vegas.
But I think we had a valuable conversation.
I agree, yeah. I think we talked about the values of getting past those initial games. I totally agree. Las Vegas... excellent game. Just the right amount of luck with a lot of interesting decisions to play as well. Thanks for bringing it to the show.
Hey, you're welcome.
That was Las Vegas from 2012.
Okay, yeah, I guess it's enough bullshitting. Enough talking about Las Vegas, Macau, or anywhere else where you can go and gamble your life savings away, okay? We're not talking about that anymore. We're getting into the real meat and potatoes of this podcast. This week's main topic, the part of the show that people come back week after week to tune into, the thing they care about the most, and that is the main topic, the meat and potatoes. I'm saying it twice. That's how important it is.
You're just caught in a loop right now? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, it just like keeps going and going. And we're talking about women in gaming. I feel Kenny and I are uniquely qualified to talk about this. But just for insurance, we brought along our special guest, Paula. No, but this is a serious topic. At some point, we probably will get a little bit serious here. But we do have some thoughts. We have some feelings about it, and we think it's important to talk about whether we're qualified or not, perhaps. So
I don't think you should feel like you can't talk or think about these things if you aren't a member of the group being discussed.
Agreed,
right? I
yeah,
just think
right.
it does need to be done with really like open minds and like listening to people who are parts of the group being discussed. But I do think there can be a bit of a feeling of like, oh, I'm not a part of that group, so I'm not allowed to talk about this. And I don't think that's how we should all feel. We just have to be a little bit sensitive, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I also agree it's not productive to limit ourselves to the things that we can discuss,
to
the things
our
that we
experiences,
can explore. Yeah, right, is what we personally experienced. So
I'm kind of curious, Paula, do you have a certain direction you want to go in?
yeah, what's your hot take about women in gaming? That's
There shouldn't be any. I should be the only one because then I'll be special. That's it, done. No. Something I was thinking about when we were talking about Las Vegas, but not talking about Las Vegas, when we started talking about Monopoly, that I was like, this is actually really interesting because Monopoly, called a different game, many people probably know this at this point, was originally the landlord's game, and it was designed by a woman, Lizzie Maggie. And her design got very much within like the public zeitgeist, like local communities were kind of tailoring it to their neighborhoods. And then the main version of Monopoly we have is like Atlantic City, because the Quaker community there really adopted this game and made it their like neighborhood. And then there was a man in Atlantic City who was like, I could make my like an official version of this and start selling it at different stores. And so he did, and he's the one who made all the money off of it, even when people were like, well, actually, Lizzie Maggie is the person who originally made this. I say that to say, like, gosh, there's some complicated things. There's this idea of, like, why don't more women design games? Or is it that they're inherently not good at it? Is it that they don't think about things that way? No, women have always done this kind of thing. It's a matter of, like, who has the free time to be able to think about these kinds of things. Historically, that has not been women, and still in many ways isn't, because often if we're thinking of like a historical societal expectation of gender roles, the man goes to work, but when he's back home, he has free time because he's the one making the money. And the woman works all the time. She is dealing with the house when the man's at work, and she's dealing with the house and or kids when the man's back home from work. And that is still something, as many strides as we've made toward a balancing of domestic responsibilities, that is still something that affects gender dynamics now. And so that is one reason why you see, I think, a lot more men at a convention, or maybe a lot more men designing games, because in many situations, the expectation kind of still is, well, the wife or the woman is going to be the one who's going to stay home with the kids, or is going to take care of them, or going to deal with their stuff. And so the man has free time to do these other things, to do these hobbies. So men get more hobbies than women do. And not in every relationship, obviously, and not even necessarily like consciously.
Yeah.
Someone might be like, well, my wife says she wants to do those things. And that's fair. Maybe she does, or maybe she thinks that's what she's supposed to want.
Right. It's hard
and so she's like, well, this is my job. She's internalized it. And so she might be really good at designing a game, but
there's not that
doesn't have the time to sit down and do it. I jumped right into kind of a tricky, a sticky conversation topic,
I mean,
but here we are.
This is what we're trying to like understand as well as like communicate to the audience. So
I was going to say, so there's like a couple things that this made me think of. So I'll try to consolidate the thoughts. So like the first is like creativity is not this one-time event, right? And especially with designing, like it can be something where you have to like kind of be able to come back to the same creative space over and over and over again before you really hit something that resonates. And to create that space when you are a woman, if you're working, if you have kids or whatever, all the things you said like apply essentially. All the work, all the unseen labor in society is going to kind of fall on you. And then somehow in the midst of that, you're supposed to like carve out space for yourself when you're not entitled to it the way that like men are in American society, especially. That's a huge challenge. And then on top of that, the way I see it, and you should tell me if you see it differently, is like there's the institutional misogyny. And this is probably what allowed Monopoly to come into existence the way it did, is because it's like men holding the purse strings, men holding the patent offices, men having the time, the ability, like to leverage patents, you know, against the original creators, all of that stuff. And then it furthers too, where it's just like, if I designed a game and it was made with sensibilities that are unique to womanhood in some way, I'm going to try and bring it to a market that is dominated by male culture already.
Who may not understand it and may not see the value in it. Yeah.
Yeah. At the institutional level, like the publishers, the stores, the store owners, all the way down the line, right? It's going to be this huge uphill battle just from the jump. So it totally makes sense that it's like that a lot of women just simply don't see the point in starting that investment at all, because the risks are high and the returns are not necessarily super great, even for male designers in the first place, a little bit, as I understand
tricky.
It. So, yeah.
You know, yeah. I think that's spot on. It's something that I have given some time to think about, and I would challenge people to spend some time considering. I worked in visual effects for a long time. TV and movie post-production where, you know, like the green screens get replaced with the background. I never did anything cool like in a Marvel movie, but like that kind of thing. I was working in recruiting for visual effects. And visual effects is another one of those fields that is very male-dominated and very white male-dominated. And so we're having a lot of conversations about why is that? How do we reach out to other communities to find other kinds of people that we could potentially hire? And considering like, well, why is this? Is it because we'll just focus on women right now? Is it because women don't like to work on computers? Is it because they don't like visual effects? Is it because they aren't good at it? Or is there a history of these things where, because of the way society was structured in the past, men have been in charge of it, and particularly white men have been in charge of it. As we've moved forward, the people who have had inherently more opportunities because they see themselves represented in it are men, and the people who are in the positions of power to decide who now gets a job or who's given an opportunity are men. And it's very difficult, but we have to examine within ourselves our own internal biases of people like to be around people who you feel like you have things in common with. That is normal. That is natural. So you might find yourself, and I was doing hiring. You know, I'm interviewing people to hire, and I'm like, why am I having a particular feeling about this person who looks more like me over this person who doesn't?
Right.
And having to examine that within myself. Like, oh, this is because I feel immediately more comfortable because we are more similar. But does that mean that they're better for the job? No. But you can see how this becomes like a cycle of the same
like
kinds of people.
Systemic barrier to a certain extent, yeah.
Right. And so when you think of it, when you think of the world in that way, you start to understand why there might be fewer people of different communities in certain places. It's because, okay, who has been historically in charge of who gets to be a part of this? And whether they're not, I'm not saying that everybody is like, we only want white men here. I think there's just a subconscious bias of like, well, this person's kind of like me, and so I'll bring them in. And I think that extends to things like board gaming or anything. We're like, okay, well, who's creating this community at first? And are they being conscious of keeping it open to people who are different from them?
What you're talking about reminds me of like STEM. There's been a proactive effort to make the STEM fields more welcoming and more encouraging for women. And we've seen some really good results come out of that when it comes to education. We're getting more and more folks that are both hiring or deciding to go into coding, into engineering, things like that, that wouldn't necessarily be your traditional white male from the 90s and past. I think one thing that really stood out to what you're saying, Paula, is like, this needs to be an active decision. This needs to be something that we take upon ourselves if we want to be more welcoming to women in whatever group, whether that be board games or other things. It's not as simple as just saying, okay, well, let's just make sure everyone is included in this. We need to proactively make sure they're included. Communicate it's a safe space, and then encourage folks to explore those spaces. It's not enough to just be like, okay, and now we're not sexist anymore. Like that's,
right.
It's not a declaration, it's an action, I guess.
Yeah.
Speaking of actionability, I'm curious from your perspective. I'm conscious of this a lot with our game group because, just like incidentally, we've done a good job of this overall, but it still is very much like, I think, a ratio of like 4-1, guys to girls. And so if I'm inviting someone to the game night and they're, a woman, I'm like, how would you recommend people approach that so that they can, I don't think our group is going to do anything weird, but it can be intimidating, right? If I were inviting you to come join our game night, if it's like everyone in the room is likely to be a guy.
Oh, what a great question. I don't know. I don't know if I have a good answer for this. I would say the best thing to do is try to create a situation where she's not the only woman or, non-mask person that is going to be there. Invite more than one if you know more than one. And to be fair, some people may not. Your social group, again, is filled with people who are like you, typically. And so it can be hard to find new people who are a little different from you. I think if you can have more than one woman invited or there, that obviously helps because you're like, okay, it's not just me. I'm not the only one. But also, some of it will come down to like, make sure that the men who are going to be there are like cool.
Yeah, that's
I don't
right.
mean like hip, but like, because I don't mind going into a space where I'm the only woman if I'm able to be immediately put at ease by the fact that the men there aren't treating me like I'm different or that I don't know anything. Sometimes you get this, and it's, and I want to keep saying this because I want to be clear to the people listening. I don't think people are intentionally othering or intentionally trying to be insulting or patronizing, but that doesn't mean it's not happening. So make sure you're not, that the people there aren't going to treat the women who are new there or the women invited like they don't know how to play games, like they don't know what a game is, like they need help understanding what to do on their turn, like treat them the way you would any other competitor in your game. Let them ask questions if they have questions. They might not know what to do, but don't assume they don't and then give them information. Like I've had people who I'm like, yeah, I know. I get it. Don't tell me how to take my turn. I didn't ask for help. I don't need you to tell me what to do. And so like cultivating an environment where the people they are going to game with when they show up are going to be like chill and cool and nice and respectful.
So filter out the bad apples. Do the work perhaps of curating like the male presenting members of your group. Yeah. Make sure that they have that awareness at least to their own biases. If you can, you could almost have like an HR presentation for your game night group.
I mean, let's be real though. Like, not everyone who plays games because they're good at being social. Some people play games because they are not good at being social. And so maybe it is appropriate to be like, hey, as a reminder, here's how we talk to people. Right. Like,
I think it's also important that if there's really something that breaches a level of comfort, to explicitly call it out. I don't expect folks to be perfect off the bat, but if there's something that you notice that bothers you, or even if it doesn't bother you personally, but you feel like it would bother somebody in the group, just be like, hey, let's not use that term, or let's not. If somebody grabs the rule book from a woman and, it's like, does that really work that way? Maybe call that out,
Totally. Don't leave it up to the person who is in the minority group in the situation. Don't leave it up to them to be the one to have to call it out.
Having allies is very valuable. To your point about seeing if there can be other women present, in the absence of that, or in addition to that, if there can just be people who are proactively advocating in a way where they are standing up or identifying if there is problematic behavior, as opposed to brushing it off or thinking, I will address this later kind of thing.
And all this being said, I think in my time of being in this hobby, the environment has changed and has grown more inclusive, I think, just since I've been part of it. And so some of these things are things maybe I would have been worried about 10 years ago that I don't worry about now when I go into a new environment, because I do think it's getting better. I do think I see more and more women at conventions every time I go to one. I think the balance is so much closer than it ever used to be, at least from my point of view. Maybe I'm lucky. Maybe that's just like the group I happen to see.
No, I think anecdotally, at least, I see it the same way as you. Like the more conventions we've been going to, the more it feels like it's probably still like 60-40, 70-30. But I'm seeing it, I think.
I think so too. And I think some of that is there are more women visible, like making content visibly than when I started making content, which was just 6 years ago. But 6 years ago, I was like, my gaming group is like 50-50 men and women. And yet all this content I'm watching about board games is only men. That's weird because I know that women play games. Maybe I should make some videos just to be like, not to be like women, but just to be visible.
Women!
Not to like, that's not the point. But I was like, we exist, we're here, we're playing games. Right. I can make videos, let's do that. And there are now so many more women doing that.
What are your thoughts as far as like why that's been so much more effective? Because my perception, and maybe I'm wrong, but my perception is that women playing games better than it used to be, still not great. Designers, we got to work on that, right? Like we'll talk about designers in a second. But folks creating videos or audio content about board games, I feel like there's been a significant uptick in women in that space. Is there a particular reason you think why? Is it because they saw you, Paula, and they were like, oh, hell yeah, this is great. And then
who knows? I mean, wouldn't that be flattering?
I'm just trying to think like what has been the catalyst on the side of like video content, for example?
Yeah, well, I think the more people who start doing it and are more visible, the more other people go, oh, I see someone kind of like me, which makes me feel like I could do it. So there's a snowball there. But I have to wonder if the pandemic didn't have something to do with it. Because there are a lot of people who started making content in all fields during lockdown because they didn't have anything else to do. And suddenly they had the time to try to pursue this thing. Yeah. So maybe there were suddenly more women with free time who were like, oh, I could make some videos. What else am I going to do? Bake bread? Like I'm not going to be those people.
Yeah, so it's spurred on artistic
or maybe they
endeavors.
Did both.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and some people have kept at it, and some people, when the world went a little back to normal, were like, oh, okay, well that's done, and now I go back. That content still exists. It's still there. You can still see it.
There's like a tonal shift that COVID brought to the kind of content that we consume. It almost feels like.
And I think too, the hobby itself has gotten better. Like, think about a modern rule book you've read, a new game in the rule book. It probably uses they or the player or player names as examples, or maybe even you. People are starting to do away with he, him, she, her in their rule books.
To a point where it sticks out like a sore thumb when we play an older game.
Oh,
and that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, when I read an older game rule book, and it's just like, he does this, he does that. It feels so weird. And I will say, for me, it always felt a little weird. Because I'm like, okay, cool. This is very much not speaking to me and not considering me.
Yeah.
But now, even more, you're like, whoa, because people aren't really doing that in their rule books anymore, and they shouldn't be. We should be as general as possible. And I also don't think, some people like pushed back and they were like, well, in our rule book, we're only going to use she, her. And for me, for my money, this is just my personal taste, I don't like that either. I think it feels super weird when I only read she, her in a rule book. At least go back and forth, switch back and forth. But like, let's just include everyone. All you have to say is the player. The player does this. The player should do this.
It's wild to think that it took like as long as it did historically for they to just like be the thing, because it seems like so obvious. I don't, and that's probably just a matter of the fact that it has become so commonplace, you know.
I mean, that might have contributed to I'm thinking not just the rule book, but also what's actually represented in gaming has become more neutral as well. If you think about a lot of the more recent themes in board gaming, it used to be that it was a lot of territorial conquest, you know, fighting. Even if it was like a more Euro-y game, it was about trains or about like doing this economic trading and things like that.
Running a business.
These themes in and of themselves can be welcoming to men and women, but they're targeted at a male audience. They've historically been associated with it. If you're only covering topics that are designed to sell to an audience that in the past was associated to men, like, you're obviously going to alienate or make it less accessible for women. Whereas like if you have a neutral topic or a topic that's more welcoming to all interests, of course you're going to get more people interested in the games, and then you're going to get more people willing to talk about or share those games in the space, which is part of that probably contributes to it too. Why we have more women talking about games, because there's games that they feel either represented in or that they feel are more akin to like things they're interested in.
Well, even like, I feel a little bit like, wow, I'm really leaning into gender roles for myself here. But you know what? That's fine sometimes. Magic the Gathering. I tried to play Magic the Gathering a bunch of times. I was like, I just don't care. And then they came out with Thrones of Eldraine, which is their fairy tale inspired set. And I was like, I am all over this. And I was like, oh, this is what makes me want to play Magic. I'm very theme first kind of gamer anyway. But like, I was like, I mean, maybe, I don't know how I should feel about like a very girly theme being the thing that makes me, a girl, want to play. But like, look, it did. So whatever, like we can have, different tastes and different things that we like. And I was like, I like that theme. So now I want to play. Or like they have Bloomborough now. It's animals. I'm like, yeah, I want to be cute animals.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want. So yeah, I think that does have an effect.
It's interesting that you describe the fairy tale theme as girly, I think, because in a sense, I think you're right. I wonder if the reason that we think of it as girly now is because of the Disney princess stuff.
That's such a good point.
Because fairy tales are like read, you know, by mothers to children on average or whatever. But it's like these stories were collected by men. Maybe they were told by women, but like I think of the Grimm brothers, right? Were a pair of guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if they asked like who the storytellers originally were, because a lot of them were passed down verbally, and a lot of them are pretty grim. Like
they're so grim that they changed their last name. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. It was a huge marketing stunt.
Like there's like Cinderella versions of Cinderella where like the stepsisters are bleeding out of their shoes. You know, like that's pretty metal, you know? Like that's a dude interest, I feel like, you know, blood.
Yeah, bleeding, getting cut.
Yeah, no, I think that highlights, right, that you can create things that are more accessible to everyone while not alienating. Because I'm sure there are folks out there who are like, oh, in an attempt to make things more welcoming, then my worldview and my personal interests are shattered.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can have both.
Yeah. You can. And like, look, I sympathize with people who feel that way. Like, here's an example. Here's my little example of that. I saw someone post the other day where they were like, ooh, look, Timothée Chalamet's playing a board game. Hey, we want attention. Hey, Timothée Chalamet, we'll send you a board game. We'll do this, whatever. I'm like, okay, so now a celebrity is playing and now suddenly we all care about board games. This is my hobby. Like, it was cool before a celebrity wanted to play it, you know? And I was like, oh, this is how
the gatekeeping
this
begins.
is how other people might feel. Yeah.
You're like, am
so
I
like,
the
look,
gatekeeper?
I get it. Yeah, I'm like, I'm the bad
Yeah.
guy. I get it. These are natural feelings. Why does this hobby have more value now that this other group of people want to be in it? And I get that feeling and I get that reaction. I literally just had it myself. But then we have to like unpack that stuff. Like, is my hobby actually being threatened because more people might think it's cool because a celebrity is playing? No, it actually isn't.
Yeah, it's actually a boon. It's a benefit.
Stronger.
Right? Yeah.
If anything, my copy of Acquired goes for even more on eBay now.
I know, right? Yeah, there's still stuff for the people who have always been here.
Yeah.
And now it's cool that there's stuff for people who maybe always wanted to be here but didn't feel like they could, or people who didn't know that they could be here but are discovering that they love it.
Yeah, I think it's a very human reaction that when there's change within something that you're really passionate about, you're immediately going to go on the defensive. So to your point,
Yeah.
I understand where people come from when they go on the defensive, but it's important to kind of unpack that and understand like, okay, why am I reacting this way? And is there actually validity? Like if we look at the end as from like an outcome driven approach, this is actually a really good thing. And it's actually not harmful in any way to me.
And having those feelings doesn't make you a bad person. You're not a misogynist if you're like, what, it's great now because more women are here? That doesn't make you a misogynist. It might be a misogynistic thought, but that doesn't define who you are. And I think it's really important for us as a society to separate those things because it's the only way we become more inclusive in every way is to be like, okay, I had a thought that was racist.
Yeah.
I am not a racist.
We're gonna edit that out of context.
You just drop that as the clickbait to get people to listen.
Sorry, go ahead.
Paula Deming is racist.
no.
I had a thought that was racist.
I had a racist thought. Look, I mean, I'm human.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've all been there. Have you ever read the book Good Inside?
No, I haven't.
You're inside up, yeah.
Well, not related.
That will make me cry.
First things first, actually, I love the fact that you mentioned Timothée Chalamet is playing board games and now board gaming is cool because actors are into it. Will Wheaton is like probably listening to this, like crying.
Yeah.
He's like, come on, guys. I created Tabletop Day.
I did it first.
I love the idea that you think Will Wheaton's listening to this, but okay.
Hey, Will, thanks so much for listening. We appreciate your work. I love you in Star Trek. I love Star Trek. Appreciate everything you're doing.
We should have him on this show. I wonder if he's still kind of hanging out.
I can hit him up. I haven't talked to him in a while. So.
Yeah, so, and then the next thought, though, was getting back to the actual topic at hand. Good Inside it's a book that is largely about parenting, but I think that the core value is actually pretty interesting, which is that children especially, but all people really, are good inside. They have good intentions. They are just trying their best in the world that we live in, but they can exhibit behaviors that are bad. They can make choices perhaps in how they respond to things, and those things are hurtful or have like a negative impact on people around them, right? So that mindset being an approach to things like misogyny, things like racism, right? It's like you can recognize what the good is, where the behavior is coming from. It's often fear-driven. It's like loneliness-driven, right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And I think that that's like a good insight. The knee-jerk reaction of like, Timothée Chalamet's only hopping on the bandwagon. I was already here first. Like, why is gaming cool now? if you're having that thought and
Yeah.
it's like about women getting into board gaming because of wingspan or something, like totally reasonable to have that feeling at first. But if you're not catching that, if you don't have that self-awareness to recognize how that thought is going to lead to hurtful gatekeeping.
So let's talk about wingspan for a second. Elizabeth Hargrave, really important cornerstone in gaming.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons, right? Not only is Wingspan just like a huge game and kind of changed the landscape in terms of like what themes we see in board gaming, but also she herself has been a really big advocate for women getting more into designing games or playing games. I think that's awesome that she's been doing that. My question, the head scratcher that I have for the two of you is like, okay, we had this huge success with Wingspan, and it created a cultural shift in terms of the content in our games themselves. Why did it not change the industry itself? Because there are designers out there, but they still continue to be in the minority, like a very, very small minority. And on top of that, they tend to be less successful in actually getting their games published. I feel like there's still a stigma there when it comes to designing games. And I'm trying to, I guess, extrapolate
you're asking like why would the success of Wingspan not have beget like a female coalition of design
or just a bigger momentum towards game design? Because we saw that from a creation of video perspective and from a like theme perspective, but we didn't see the same level of momentum when it came to designers.
Well, one thing is, if I want to make a video, no one needs to give me permission to do it.
Yeah.
I can just do it and publish it on YouTube. That doesn't mean people are going to watch it.
But at least you have the platform.
But I think like the content creator standpoint, like I don't need someone to produce it for me. I can just do it. The blessing and the curse of our modern era of video platform, social media, and content creation. And I'll say like, let's remember Wingspan came out in 2019. So it's 6 years old. And I think
the turnaround
this
time?
kind of systemic change just takes longer. I think let's check back in 20 years.
Yeah.
Let's check back in 50 years. Like if we look at this graphic that Elizabeth Hargrave updates occasionally about like the breakdown of designer gender for the top 500 games on Board Game Geek. I think something we also do need to consider is a lot of the games in the top 500 are games that have been there for a long time. So if we're talking about games that were designed in 2019, statistically, how many of those games, the most recent games, are in the top 500?
Right, yeah.
And how many of them are games that were designed in the 90s that are still there? I don't know. I haven't looked into those numbers, but I do know like some games are like look, Through the Ages is up there. Like, well, that's not a new game, you know? So some of it is like, some of these games have been there for a long time. And so there are more games that have been designed by only men, so more likely to be in the top 500.
Yeah, Elizabeth also highlights in the comments, we have to keep in mind this is also Board Game Geek's top 500, and so there's some bias built into who's rating games and how they make it up there. Which,
yeah, that's such a good point.
Yeah, Tom and I did a whole episode on that, so... That's the thing too, like we might actually be seeing a bigger shift. It's just that we're not observing it via the lens that we're looking at it through.
And I think it's going to be more of a slow burn because there is a lot of systemic or things in place where if the people making the decisions are still overwhelmingly men, they may be, without realizing it, naturally choosing more male designed games. To publish.
Yeah, it's like institutional bias, if not institutional misogyny, right? It just...
Yeah.
Well, folks make a lot of financial and business decisions based on their level of trust. You see this with like hiring in the workplace, at least in the IT space as well. You're more likely to hire somebody that you've worked with in the past versus somebody that's applying for the first time or somebody that's been referred by a person that already works in the business. I would assume that translates to a certain extent to the games industry. And so if you're taking that particular angle, board gaming is pretty niche. And as a result, it's a very tight-knit group of designers and publishers that are out there. They've often collaborated many times, and they collaborated with each other. You're going to see circles, and you're going to see certain folks popping up again and again. I mean, look at like the Italian designers, right? It's like you got Daniel Tascini designing with Virginio Gigli, who then also did something with Paolo Mori, and they're just like boom, boom, boom all over the place, like collaborating on games as a duo. You see that less with US designs, but still, even then, you see that certain publishers always work with certain designers and vice versa.
Yeah.
If you're taking that reasoning and applying it to what we just talked about, you're going to be less inclined to hire somebody from outside that circle or greenlight a design from somebody that's outside that circle. And if that circle is men, then you're by transitive property less inclined to hire women. So
I actually would be curious to see some statistics on first-time publishers. So like, okay, games by new designers in 2025, what's the gender breakdown of that?
That's a really good point.
I wonder if that would be a better marker of how things are or aren't shifting.
Because there's not that bias from the industry there.
Yeah, there's not the like, well, these are just the people we've always worked with and they happen to be men because historically that's what's existed.
Yeah. That's a really interesting one. We'll have to see if we can pull some kind of data via like BGG. As Tom knows, the Board Game Geek API is like super easy to use. So
yeah, definitely.
There was one time we were experimenting with something and Tom was like pulling his hair out.
It's a horrendous API.
Like, happy it exists. Wish we had something better. I can't even imagine how much work Elizabeth put into this to like get her stats.
It's a short-sighted lack of investment on their part. So any BGG staffers listening, I don't know, email your boss, like tell them to make some changes because it's not going to last. I'm worried about you.
There's no way Will Wheaton's listening, but like Aldi might be listening. So Aldi, you've already heard this like 8 million times. So, here's another data point.
Well, think about, we can't even get BGG to change, right? And it's what, 25 years old?
Tie-in. Yeah.
When they did change the design, you remember a few years ago when they changed the design of the site and how everyone flipped out? And it's significantly better than it used to be, but people lost their minds. Like, change is hard. Entrenched.
Why doesn't this look like it's from the 90s?
It's hard. Yeah. I know. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, thanks for letting me, I've really just sort of like rambled on about a lot of just thoughts and feelings that I have. So I appreciate y'all letting me say them all and people listening to all of it. I'm not saying I'm always say exactly the right thing or that my take is always the correct one. But I guess take it all with a grain of salt.
I mean, you're out here, you're trying your best. And what we wanted to do, I think, more than anything was kind of platform you. As much as I joke about our qualifications. But yeah, this was great. I appreciate you coming on.
Well, I appreciate it a lot too.
I think that's just going to have to do it for this week's podcast. Thanks everybody for tuning in and listening. Thank you especially to Michael, Tyler, Devin, and Josh, the Boise Rainbows, for the segue music that we never use when we have a guest. And thank you to Bonehouse for letting us use their song Rot as the opening theme. And thank you to Paula for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I've had such a nice time. Thanks for this really lovely conversation.
It has been awesome.
Anything you want to plug?
You can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/Paula Deming. If you like comedy mixed with your board games, I just might be for you. I make sketch comedy called Things Get Dicey. I do live playthroughs and the occasional top 10. And if you like podcasts, and if you're here, you probably do, check out the podcast I'm on, This Game is Broken, a board game comedy panel show. And it is me and Matthew Jude, Nick and Mike Murphy of the Brothers Murph, and Dave Luza as the cast. And that comes out every 2 weeks, and it's fun, and listen to it.
It is, yeah. I am always impressed / horrified at how well I am able to answer the questions.
Nice. Sounds like you do better than me.
Well, it just makes me wonder, like, what information did I lose in the process? Will I not forget my first moments with my baby daughter? Like
They've been replaced by what title of a Knizia game? Can
Exactly.
you remember?
Yeah, I remember that Knizia published the second version of this thing in 2019. Like, anyway, that's a me problem. If you're loving the cast, share with a friend, or on Reddit, or on BGG. You can also reach out to us directly at shelfstablecast@gmail.com. All of this and more available in the show notes. Tom, do we have a topic for next week? Or no, we usually have the guest pick.
Exciting. I get to make a choice and then not be responsible. I think your next topic, inspired by how funny I am, should be what makes games funny, and can they even be funny?
Sounds great.
Awesome. How funny can they possibly be?
There's certainly a whole subset of gamers who don't believe comedy has anything to do with gaming.
I think if you're smiling during game night, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Thank you.
you
You're
go.
so right.
Because that means you're not crunching the numbers hard enough.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you, Paula. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Listeners, we'll see you next week. Bye.